Namaste, everyone, and a heartfelt welcome to this beautiful holiday celebration and into healing our lives during this wild ride that we're all living through. And I want to welcome not only those of you who've been with the journey, some of you have been with this whole teaching for 25 years or 18 or 12 or 10 or whatever, and some of you are brand new. And I wanted to give this special holiday session because we're living in probably the wildest ride that we in recent history have lived through as a world. And it seems like the whole world has been thrown into tumult and uncertainty. And in every country, mandates are changing almost daily. And now with the new Omicron variant, it's stepped up. I read just today in the newspaper that in Denmark, they do 7 times the amount of testing that they do anywhere else in the world. And they're scientifically all over it. And they're saying that it's many, many more times contagious, and it's spreading, multiple times faster than any other variant before it. And so it's thrown a lot of people, their Christmas plans, their holiday plans have been thrown into the unknown, and it's creating a lot of stress. And besides that, it's an odd thing, but at this time of the year, it's always expected that we make merry and that we have to have a good time. And so there's a lot of false smiles. In addition to that, there's the stress of present buying and having to meet up with family members. And we all of us have unresolved issues stored inside of us. And so there's old resentments, old hurts, old unaddressed traumas that are buried inside of our bodies. And then when we get thrown together with family members and longtime friends, they've stayed buried inside of us. And so they come leaking out. Or a stressful situation happens, this is probably the most stress that we've had at Christmas time of any year in the last couple of decades. Because it's coming from all directions, this uncertainty. It's not just in coming together with family. And so what's happening is our buttons are being pushed, we're being triggered, and we're having knee-jerk reactions, and which then turns up the stress because that isn't how we wanted to spend the holidays. And so I wanted to make the focus of this particular session about finding peace, even amidst all of the craziness, the stress, the changing mandates, and finding forgiveness. Because for me, that has been such a huge part of finding that peace inside, was coming to forgiveness in myself, for others, for life, for God, for life circumstances. And something comes to rest deeply inside when true forgiveness is experienced and offered. And so I'm making this a different session than we have as our monthly sessions. And because the whole world is going through such a difficult time right now, I wondered if you might be willing to join me in just a short prayer for our world that is going through such a trying time. And even if you may have been one of those people that have been sailing through, still it is a stress not to know, am I allowed to leave the house? And am I allowed to go inside a restaurant? No, should I get vaccinated? Should I not get vaccinated? Oh, I got vaccinated. Did I do the right thing? And even if you were one of those people that actually enjoyed the lockdowns and were glad for the quietude, still just the daily stresses of changing rules and changing questions. And, here we are, we're online together like this. And, we've often been isolated in our own homes, and this being the only way we can connect. And thank God that if a pandemic was ever to happen, it happened now when we can connect in this way, where we can truly open our hearts and meet together, heart to heart, eyes to eyes, and speak together and at least connect deeply together. And so to begin this session, I thought it'd be beautiful for us all, no matter what our religious background is or our spiritual beliefs are, to make a universal prayer for our world during this difficult time. So if you're willing to join me, and all of my sessions, they're always highly experiential, where you get not only teachings on the outside, but you get to experience process work on the inside, meditations, prayers, and we certainly will have that today following our prayer. But if you don't like the word prayer, if it's too religious for you, use the word intention, because surely we have an intention that this fear consciousness that is blanketing our world right now, that the whole world is in this encasement of fear consciousness, that somehow that gets lifted from us and that we're able to come home to a sense of peace inside of ourselves, that we can take this lampshade off our lights and to truly feel at peace within, regardless of the tumultuousness of life circumstances. So if you'd like to join me, let us all together take a nice deep breath in and letting it out and closing your eyes and just taking in a deep breath in of openness to yourself, to life, to one another. Breathing openness into the room. And willingness. The willingness just to explore and let your own soul reveal to you what's going on inside of us today. Breathing this willingness to listen to yourself into the room. And now trust. Trust in yourself, trust in life, trust in the universe. Breathing trust into the room. And now letting your heart open and be as wide as the world. Wide enough to welcome all of the world, humanity, all the creatures, all of nature, all of existence is in this vast open sky here of all acceptance, all love. And so letting your heart be as wide as the world. And this presence, this acceptance, this love, this awareness is vast, spacious, free and endless in front of you. It's boundlessly spacious, free, and vast behind you. It's infinitely vast and spacious to all sides of you. And you're just resting now, soaking, steeping in this love as this love. And now picturing our world and the billions of souls here on our planet, And as if some sort of lid of fear consciousness has been encasing our world. Right now, seeing some huge force of life, of grace, just lifting this lid off of all of our world, of all of the souls that live here. Seeing this lid of fear consciousness being lifted off our world and thrown into the sun, transmuted into light. And seeing our world encased now in love, in light, in a presence of peace, and making a prayer that amidst all the tumultuous turmoil going on, the difficulties, the challenges, the big weather events happening now that have taken so many lives, amidst all of what's going on, that in each soul there is a light inside, that in spite of the catastrophic events happening externally, that somehow each being is able to connect to that light, that love that is in all of our hearts. And making a prayer that this be so, despite the craziness of what is going on in our world, that somehow individually, each of us are connecting to the truth inside, underlying all the turmoil at the surface, where there is a peace that underlies all the chaos taking place on the surface. And we, all of us, are capable of opening and connecting to that part of ourselves. And so see that happening. And surrounding our world with this same light that exists within us, embracing all of nature, all the creatures, all of humanity in the scintillating light. And a prayer that somehow this is a transmutational light that can transmute consciousness. And may the will be done. Will be done. Will be done. So be it. And the heart remains vast, spacious, open, and free in front of you. Your own presence is spacious and vast behind you. Your own being is infinite to all sides of you. Just resting here, soaking in this, as this, knowing that eyes open or eyes closed is the same one awareness. Taking another nice deep breath in, letting it out, and another nice deep breath in. And sighing it out. And you can open your eyes now. into this love. And taking another nice deep breath in. And sighing it out. And one more nice deep breath in. And sighing it out. And if the eyes have not yet opened, this is the invitation. Open your eyes now. And you can open your eyes now. The eyes will open now. Okay, thank you for joining me in that prayer for our world. And I think every bit of positive consciousness that we can send out to our fellow human beings and to life itself can only serve life. And so just to hold that vision. So, beloveds, I'd like to go into diving into why is it there's been so much stress this holiday season, and so many people, friends of mine, saying they're getting triggered, and I have been triggered during this holiday season. And, you know, I have beloveds who are in the journey writing in that they're finding that they're having reactions that they haven't had in years that are just coming up to the surface. And yes, the external circumstances have been like a pressure cooker where we haven't known from moment to moment what's going to happen next. What are the next new rules? Face mask, not face mask, inside, allowed inside, not allowed inside, allowed to be with your family, not allowed to be with your family. And it's like we're living in a constant world of the unknown, and it is like a cauldron, a pressure cooker. And so what's happening is life is pushing our buttons, and the buried issues that we've not yet addressed or resolved or finished with or healed, our buttons are being pushed and they're coming up to the surface unbridled, and we're having reactions that we're not proud of. We're blurting out or shutting down or completely ignoring someone or just I'm not dealing with this or just getting angry and shouting at somebody. There's hurt that happens and, you know, a wall that goes up and all kinds of emotional reactions, which are a result of never having met these old buried cell memories. And for those of you new to the journey, you may not be aware of this, or you may already be aware of this, but that what science has found, when you feel a strong emotion and you repress it, and they can watch this in a laboratory, it releases a quantifiable biochemistry into your bloodstream, which will go to certain cell receptors, blocking the cells, rendering the cells incapable of communicating with the rest of the cells in the body. And if over time illness happens, well, naturally it happens where the cells are blocked. And conversely, what's also known to be true is when we feel emotions very openly and freely, i.e. we don't shut them down, we don't repress them, resist them, or sweep them under the carpet or pretend they're not there, but we actually feel them, you know, very naturally like a child does. Our cell receptors remain open. And so what the journey does is it takes you on a journey inside your body to go to these locations where the cells are blocked, to uncover the old repressed emotions, the old cell memories, the consciousness, the unspoken words, the pain that you went through at that time, and to go through not only an unearthing of these old cell memories, but to go through a process of releasing the stored consciousness there, coming to an understanding of what happened to you at that time when you had that trauma, and going through a deep and quite radical process of forgiveness, so that when new cells are born, they're born devoid of that old consciousness as new regenerative cells. Now, what science has found, you know, that time when we had something horrible happen, and it's usually when we're at the peak of a strong emotion, that we shut down. And the biochemistry is released and it gets stored inside the cells. And before that cell dies, that, all those cells in that area die, they pass on the programming, the cell memory, to the next cell generation. So the next generations of cells are born with the same consciousness, with the same issue, as with the same programming. I can remember, for those of you that know me and know the journey, many years ago in 1992, I was diagnosed with a basketball-sized tumor. And when I was with the oncologist, with the doctor, as she was going through the exam, she said, Brenda, this probably just started with one cell when you were 8 years old. And it replicated and it became 2 cells. And, in the last 6 months, they've been, replicating exponentially. And I looked like I had a basketball-sized mass inside of me by then. And that's the way this programming is passed on from one cell generation to the next. And with the journey, what we do is we interrupt this programming. And we get access to the programming in the cell. And we go through a very deep and heartfelt process of releasing that stored consciousness and really coming to a place of understanding of what has taken place in our life. And then we go through that process of forgiveness. And it's a magical thing. There's a reason why forgiveness is tantamount and paramount in every world religion, because it has the power to heal. That when you forgive, it's when you let go of the story. It's when you let go of this old baggage. It's when you say, okay, I'm done. I get it. With all my heart, I open my heart and I forgive this other person. I forgive God for doing this. I forgive life for doing this. I give for myself for my response to it. I just forgive. And that's when you finally let go of the consciousness. And so when new cells are born, they're born as new regenerative cells, devoid of that old consciousness. And it's why, for instance, today, Journey's in 39 countries and it's been translated in 22 languages and is being used by medical doctors and hospitals and by psychiatrists, psychologists, and people from all walks of life around the world to get to the emotional root cause of what is co-creating not only illness, disease, injuries in our body, but what's co-creating that knee-jerk reaction that you had. So if these old cell memories are stored inside your body, and someone now says something to you, and suddenly, you get upset, you blurt something out, you shut down, you get hurt, you're devastated, you feel confused, lost, worthless, whatever it is. That knee-jerk reaction didn't come out of somewhere, out of nowhere. It came because the cell memories are stored inside your cells and buried in the body. And with the journey, we actually go to those cellular locations and uncover what's stored there and clear them so that there is no longer any knee-jerk reaction happening. So all that's happening to the whole of the world right now is all of these old buried cell memories that none of us were given a manual how to deal with, right? No one was given a manual. For instance, when 9/11 happened, and I'm a New Yorker, and when that happened, I wasn't in New York at the time, but as soon as we were allowed to fly into New York City, Journey Outreach, our humanitarian organization, came into New York City and we offered free of charge journey work, because I knew that those who had lost loved ones in the Twin Towers going down, they would have this trauma. An immense tragic event happened, and I knew how they would respond. Those who had lost loved ones were invited to this free journey intensive to really get to, they would have done, as all of us would have done, this huge trauma happened. What do we all do? Shut down, sweep it under the carpet, get on with our lives, and try to somehow cope with life. And I knew that by then the chemistry would have happened. And so I invited those people to come to a journey event so they could get to the cell memories of what actually happened at the time and really go through a clearing so that it wouldn't manifest as illness 10 years down the line. And it was such an extraordinary time because I read in the New York Times 10 years later that the US government actually kept tabs on those people who were the family members of the ones who died in the Twin Towers. And for 10 years, they kept tabs on them. And they reported in the New York Times that those that were the survivors had off the Richter scale cancer. Not everyone, obviously, but proportionately speaking, percentage-wise, there was off the Richter scale, percentage-wise, cancer. Why? No one gave them a manual how to deal with that tragedy. And so they responded the way all of us do. When there's an uncomfortable emotion, what do? Smoke it away, drink it away, call a friend, get on Facebook, get on social media, get on Netflix. We'll do anything to avoid that uncomfortable emotion. And yet it's when we do this shutdown that the biochemistry is released. And then that emotion and the unspoken words and the memory from that time gets stored in your cells and gets passed on from one cell generation to the next. And so the Journey Intensive was originally born to give you the tools in a very direct way to get access to these cell memories and clear them. Now, we can't go through all that today, but I would love for you to experiment and just to be able to uncover that, in fact, these old emotions are stored there that have come into play at some point where there was a traumatic event, there was some strong event that happened in your life, you didn't have the coping skills and you shut down. And then I'd like to take us from there into teaching about forgiveness. Because what is happening right now during the holiday season, which I find to be such a tragedy, I'm hearing from people all around the world. And in fact, it was reported a couple of months ago in the Telegraph newspaper in Britain that the divorce lawyers are reporting that they cannot keep up with the deluge of divorces that are happening as a result of the pressure cooker that the pandemic has created. And just today I was reading in the Telegraph that this has just become almost like a pandemic of divorces that are happening during this holiday season. They actually had a column on how to deal with the fact that divorces are happening during the holiday season. It's wild. And it's because we're having these knee-jerk reactions. And so what my prayer is for you during this, hour and 15 minutes that we have shared together is to not only uncover some of these knee-jerk reactions, but to actually go inside yourself and just even do a little opening, of a taste of an opening, of doing some forgiveness work. Because in my direct living experience, when I come to wholehearted forgiveness in myself, then that's when I let go of my story of pain. So let's just go on and see how this all unfolds. And let's do a divine experiment together. And first of all, let's start with just, right now in your awareness, go back to the last few weeks that we've been living through, where the daily news is enough to make all of us have these knee-jerk triggered responses. I mean, even just 2 days ago, I was reading how Harry the Prince Harry, was writing about that he was having when he returned to Britain for the funeral of Philip. He was saying, I had all kinds of triggered responses. I was being triggered when I got off the plane and had to go to the same places because he had unresolved trauma from his childhood. And it was triggering him to walk the same steps he did as a child. And all of us are like this. Like, for instance, if you're driving in traffic, of which there's quite a lot now in a lot of cities because it's Christmas time, and someone cuts you off, up comes the rage. Well, that person didn't come in the middle of the night and stick the rage inside of you. The rage was already buried there in your cells. All that person who cut you off did was push your button. They triggered you, and up came the rage. So I'm wanting us to let us right now just do a little experiment with me, and let your awareness cast back to a time in recent weeks or even months where you got triggered, where someone said something and you shut down, you closed off, or you blurted out some defense, and most anger is a form of defense, or you went away and felt despairing, unloved, or worthless, or you went inside your head and I should say this, and I should say this, and I should say this. You know what I'm talking about, where someone said something or something happened in life where instantaneously you had a knee-jerk response. So just let your awareness go back to a recent time that that's happened. And just close your eyes for right now and just try this experiment. Go back to a recent memory where you got triggered. Could have been a little thing where you had a knee-jerk response and it just came blurting out, or you shut down, or you got hurt, or you blanked that person out. You had some sort of emotional response. Go right to that memory and step into it and go to that exact moment where you were triggered, to where you had that knee-jerk reaction. Go right to that moment and feel how you felt as this knee-jerk trigger reaction happened. Just feel how that felt to respond in that way. Now roll the cameras back to a millisecond before that reaction, to the impulse to react. And now roll the cameras back to a moment before that impulse, and just open up and ask yourself, what was I really feeling prior to the impulse to react? So go to the reaction, then roll the cameras back in time to the impulse to react. And then just before the impulse, open up and stretch time. And what were you really feeling? And just speak out loud into your room what the feeling was, even if you're not sure what it was. What was the real feeling here prior to the reaction? And now just welcoming all of this feeling. And for once, you're not going to run away from it. You're not going to defend against it. You're not going to push it away. You're just allowing this feeling, whatever it is. And ask yourself innocently, if there were a deeper feeling inside this more surface feeling, if there were an even deeper feeling beneath it, in the core of it, I wonder what that deeper feeling might be. And just opening into that deeper feeling. And if there were a deeper feeling, what might that feeling be? And just speak that out loud into your room so you know what feeling that is. And just allowing whatever this feeling is, no matter how strong or soft, just allowing it here. And then inquiring even deeper. If there were an even deeper feeling in the core of that feeling, I wonder what that deeper feeling might be. If there were an even deeper feeling. And just allowing whatever's here to show up. Just allowing whatever's here to show up. What is deeper? What are you really feeling? Because there was a surface reaction, but then we have layers deeper and deeper. And what is this feeling that's here? Even if you're not sure what it is, what might it be? Just speak it out into the room. And just taking a nice deep breath in, letting it out. And just allowing whatever's here to be here. Taking another nice deep breath in. Letting it out. And bathing whatever's here in a vast open bath of acceptance. Just pure acceptance. No need to fix, no need to change, just acceptance. And another nice deep breath in. Letting it out. And opening the eyes. So I know this was just a simple, self-inquiry, but you can see if you kind of open and played along and did this experiment that you had a reaction, but most of our reactions are defense. We don't want to feel what we're feeling, so we push away. But when you roll the cameras back to the impulse and prior to the impulse to react and kind of opened up, you'll notice that there was actually a feeling there that was driving that external reaction. And if you open, you'll notice there's actually deeper and deeper layers of feeling that we all have. And these are the buried emotions that are buried inside of us. And one of the things I've recognized that if you go inside and you really welcome any emotion and open and go into the core of it and stay still there, you will fall into deeper layers of emotions. And eventually you will find yourself in a vast field of nothingness, of emptiness, of vastness of being. And when you surrender and open in that, you'll find yourself opening into a vast field of light, of love, of peace. That deep in the core of your worst emotions, there you will find the peace that you are seeking. And in fact, they're just layers covering this light, this peace inside of you. And what the journey does is in a very direct way, it takes you down through the layers, through this vast field of nothingness and into the light of your own soul. And it's from that light, from that presence of peace inside, that you're guided on a journey inside your body to get access to these cell memories, to go through that deep radical process of release and letting go, and to finally go through a process of forgiveness. So speaking of forgiveness, when I first, went through the journey process, and truthfully, there was no method out there for cellular healing. And part of the great gift of my own healing journey was I uncovered a means for all of us in a very practical, very direct, very experiential way to get access to this infinite intelligence, the part of your body that makes your heart beat and your eyes shine and your hair grow, to open into this vast field of love, of peace. And at the deepest level, at the level of the soul, to turn the flashlight on, the torch on inside, and to go on this journey inside your body to uncover these blocked cells, old cell memories that I was speaking about earlier. And so when I first ended up, going through spontaneously my own spiritual healing journey, spontaneously, I ended up inside of the tumor and uncovered this old memory of traumatic childhood abuse. Now, being a therapist and life trained in so many different aspects of complementary medicine, of course, I thought, I have long since handled this. I mean, I went through 8 years of therapy in New York City at the time, in addition to getting certified in so many different areas and accredited. And I thought, this is so long since handled, and my mind said that. But my body and my being were saying, well, you may think you've handled that childhood trauma, but you haven't really. And I thought, okay, what have I got to lose? And I went through a process of really entering and releasing all the stored pain, the words, all the words I didn't even know I needed to speak out. And when I came to the end of that process, I asked my body, am I complete? And the simple word no arose. And I thought, you know what? I don't even believe this is the right cell memory. But if it is the right cell memory, I haven't a clue how to complete. And so out of nowhere, a prayer arose inside of me. Please, somehow, how to complete. And at a most unexpected moment, the simple word forgiveness was here. And immediately my know-it-all therapist mind said, oh, what difference could forgiveness make, right? You already knew about this cell memory. You've worked on it for ages. You're a therapist in the field, been there, done that, got the t-shirts. How could forgiveness possibly make a difference? My mind was saying this, this arrogant know-it-all, but my body was saying, well, you've got nothing to lose by forgiving. And so I opened my heart to forgive. And it hurt. Because you see, I'd created this whole, noble identity of Brandon, the compassionate, noble therapist who'd come to understand her violent and brutal past. And I had to step down off my own self-made pedestal and face down 30 years of pride. Oh, well, dressed up as compassion and understanding. And it hurt to face down that much pride. But I finally opened my heart humbly and completely. And with all my heart, I wholeheartedly forgave. And it was while I was forgiving, I realized that that tumor had never been clinging to me. I'd been clinging to it. And 30 years of a blame game, dressed up as all this understanding and compassion, that 30 years of my blame game was over. And it was in only 6.5 weeks time. And I went through several processes similar to this, that I ended up in Cedars-Sinai Hospital, and I was pronounced textbook perfect clean, completely tumor-free. So there is a great power in forgiving, not in just in coming to peace, but in healing your body. And one of the things I've learned about forgiveness is just words. It's just lip service. If you're saying words out loud, but you're not feeling it with all your heart. And what I've also learned is you can't forgive. Not really. Not until you've emptied out all the pent-up emotion, the resentment, the rage, the anger, the sadness, the devastation, whatever it is. Until that you are completely empty of all of that stuff. Forgiveness is just a bunch of words. But the moment you release everything, nature abhors a void, and forgiveness floods in naturally, like it does with children. Children are so quick to forgive, not because they're, enlightened or something, although we do come in as that enlightenment as children, but because they feel all their emotions, they get all their emotions out, and someone says, I'm sorry, it's okay, and it's over. They don't even remember the argument that they had. And that's the way true forgiveness works. There's so many teachings about forgiveness out there, but what they miss out on, unless you release the backed up, pent up emotions that have kept you from forgiving, then saying words of forgiveness are just that. Forgiveness means nothing, but your body and your soul know when you've forgiven. And when you really released every last bit of backed up emotion and unspoken words and ideas and constructs, when you've emptied all that out, your body knows that. And forgiveness is very real and is wholehearted. So I like to invite you, because this was the key in my own healing, that when I forgave, it's as if I let go of my whole story of pain. All the trauma, all the resentment, the anger, the blame game, the false acceptance, the false compassion, all of it. When I released all the emotion that was there, then when I forgave, it was the real deal. And so I'd love to invite you to really just do a little taste of this, to give it a shot, do a divine experiment again. And the thing that happened with me is not only did the tumor finish, but I found I was at peace with the people who had perpetrated the violence in my childhood, that I'd come to peace with them. And this is what I want for all of us, that during this holiday season, that we come to such an honest, genuine, heartfelt place of forgiveness, that yes, our loved ones and our friends, they're going to do all the same stuff that we didn't like in the past. But instead of it triggering us, we just feel neutral about it. And whatever they're doing or not doing, it comes and goes, and we're not touched by it. And our peace remains unruffled by it. We can stay in a place of just natural ease of being without having these triggered reactions. So I'd like to ask you to join me once again and just try it out. Just try it out. See if you can experience the liberating power and the healing power of forgiveness. And we're just going to do a mini process here. So if you'd like to join me, let's take a nice deep breath in, letting it out, and closing your eyes. And once again, breathing in a breath of openness, openness to whatever your body and your being and your soul wish to reveal to you. Breathing that wholehearted openness into the room. And willingness, the willingness to feel whatever it is that wants to be revealed. So breathing that willingness. And again, trust in yourself. Actually, your soul will never give you something you're not ready to face and heal. So if it shows up, it means you're ready. So breathing trust into the room. And this willingness to be exposed to whatever's inside of you, that the body's ready to expose to you. So breathing this exposure into the room. And once again, letting your heart be as wide as the world. Wide enough to welcome whatever lives inside of you. That's how vast this vast open sky of all acceptance is. And it's vast and spacious, free and endless in front of you. It's boundlessly vast and spacious behind you. It's free and endless to all sides of you. And into this vast open sky of all acceptance, imagining that there's a campfire there. And at this campfire is a younger you who may have buried old issues and resentments and things stored inside. And the present day you. So there's the present day you, a younger you, and also this campfire, maybe people where you've gotten hurt or that you're having triggered reactions to, but inviting to the campfire some other people who you may have some aji-baji with, some, edge with, glitch with, that you're contracting when you're around them. You know what I mean. And so you could invite 1, 2, 3 people, knowing that today you only work with one, because I'm wanting you to get a taste of this process here. So invite them by name. So in my case, I would invite my mother and my father, and also one of my friends. But you pick someone who right now you're having a little bit of issue with. And I'd like to invite the younger you to have a voice, to feel that they are safe to finally say and to get off their chest and to come up out of their shells what they haven't been able to say to this person in the past. And so giving the younger you a voice, and it has to be done out loud, otherwise this just doesn't work. It stays inside of you and mills around inside of you. So you've got to get it up and out. But if the younger you could speak to one person at that campfire, what would the younger you say? And on the count of 3, just saying out loud, I felt this way, and when you did this, this was my reaction, and this is how I felt inside, and just start emptying out. 1, 2, 3. So just speaking out loud, whatever the younger you needs to say to this person that you got hurt by or angry with or resentful of. When you did this, this was how I felt, and this was my reaction, and just say it out loud. 1, 2, 3. Let them know what you were feeling deeper than that, how devastating it was that they talked to you like this, or how worthless you felt, or how angry you got. Just speak the truth and let the younger you finally get it off your chest and out of your cells. Keep talking. Just empty out all those unspoken words. Empty out the pain, the hurt. And even those words you couldn't say at the time that you wished you'd said, let them just spontaneously come up and out. The words you didn't say, but you now looking back wished you'd said. Keep speaking the honest, naked truth. What else? What else needs to be said here? Okay. And knowing that this other person was probably doing the best that they could with the emotional resources they had at the time, if your words could penetrate past their personality and go inside them, and if they could really drink in your words, really hear them, and they could touch that deeper place inside of them, what might this other person respond from that deeper place? So if they were to be allowed to respond from that deeper place to what you just said, what would they say? And speak their words out loud on their behalf. What would they respond? This has to be done out loud. And if you could really drink in their words, and their words could bypass any defendedness and go in from your own deeper place in the younger you, what would the younger you respond to that? Just let whatever words want to come tumbling out, come tumbling out. Just speak it out. Whatever emotions are here, whatever words are, make sure you dig deep and get the unspoken words to come up and out. What else would you say to them? Even those niggly bits, get it all out. And if they were to respond from that deeper place inside of them, what might they respond? And just drink in their words. Speak it out loud. It all has to be done out loud. Otherwise, it just mills around and stays inside. This is better out than in. What would they respond? And now I'd like to ask you to let the younger you step inside their body and actually feel what they were going through at the time that this whole incident happened, what they were feeling emotionally. And what were they feeling inside, in their deeper part? What were they feeling about themselves, about life, in themselves? Step inside them. What are they feeling? And even go deeper than that. Go into the core of that emotion. What was even deeper? How are they feeling about themselves, about life? Go even deeper than that, to an even deeper emotion inside of them. What were they feeling at rock bottom about themselves, about life? And now divorce yourself from that they were feeling and step inside instead into their heart of hearts, into their souls, where this vast field of love is, this light is, the same love that exists inside of all of us, but that they probably didn't have access to because they were too caught up in what they were feeling about themselves and about life. So step inside their heart of hearts, into the love inside of them. Look out through their eyes and look at the younger you. And from the heart of hearts, how were they feeling about the younger you? And now step outside of them and open the door of the chest of the younger you and let all their love, how they're proud of you, how they feel about you from their heart of hearts come flooding in. And divorce from that all their pain and their actions that we now know were born from their pain. Just receive their pure love. Let it flood the cells of the younger you. And if that other person could say anything to you about this, all this conversation, what would they say to you right now? And drink those words in. And if you could respond, what would you respond? Speak it out loud. And now I'd like to ask the younger you, even though you might not condone their actions may not have been acceptable by any country's standards anywhere in the world. Even though we do not condone their actions, we now know where the pain that they came from. And I'd like to ask that we can say, no, I do not condone the actions, but with all my heart, I forgive you. And wholeheartedly and in your own words, say to them, I wholeheartedly forgive you. And the same is true of the present day you. Even though the present day you, the you sitting here now, may not condone their actions, I'd like to ask if you'd be willing to forgive their soul. And if so, then go ahead and speak the words, I wholeheartedly forgive you. And if you need to be forgiven for something, say, please, I need your forgiveness. And open your heart and receive it. And now making a prayer for them, that somehow they can come to forgive themselves and find the peace in that. And seeing them and the others at the campfire just dissolve into the light. And there's just the present day here and the younger you. And the present day you says to the younger you, I'm so sorry for all this previous pain. You just didn't have access to the wisdom and understanding I do now. But I promise you will never have to go through that pain again, because from now on, I will protect you and I will love you. And you can have access to this love, this wisdom, and this forgiveness anytime you like. Saying those words to the younger you out loud. And now hugging the younger you, letting the younger you merge inside of you, growing up now in this acceptance, in this forgiveness, in this understanding, and in this love. And taking a nice deep breath in of love, of acceptance, and blowing it out. And a deep breath in of awareness. And this awareness is vast and spacious, free and endless in front of you, boundlessly spacious behind, infinitely free to all sides of you, boundless below and sky-like above. And just resting here in this ocean of acceptance as it. So that eyes open or eyes closed, same. And taking another nice deep breath in. And sighing it out. And you can open your eyes now into this field of acceptance. Taking another nice deep breath in. And letting it out. And another nice deep breath in. And sighing it out. And if the eyes have not yet opened, this is your invitation to open your eyes now. And you can open your eyes now. Opening the eyes now. So, beloveds, this was just a tiny toe dip, a little tiny taste of how easeful forgiveness can be and how healing it can feel to finally finish with old baggage and just choose forgiveness. And I really want to recommend, all of us have numbers of people that we have issues with. We have niggles with, we have resentments with them, and they're triggering us. And what do you have to lose but old baggage? What have you have to gain? Just coming to a place of peace, understanding, and forgiveness in yourself. What greater gift could you possibly give your loved ones during the holiday season than being able to be neutral in all the madness that's going on right now, and just to offer an easeful heart, one with peace. And so I really want to encourage you that if you've not done the journey before, that you get on our website, download the book, make sure you experience it. And if you feel called to go much deeper with this work, as the hundreds of thousands have around the world, then yes, get yourself to a journey intensive. They're happening online everywhere. And I understand that there is this incredible bundle that they've done just for the holidays, a special Christmas special, that if you feel that you really want to deepen and learn tools that you can take away with you and use to help take the lampshade off the light of your children, your loved ones, your parents, your family, your friends, and that you can take these tools, because it's not just a deep immersion for 2 days where you're undergoing in-depth teaching and process work with the embrace of journey practitioners and going through meditations. You're actually undergoing the process work with another person, and you learn through doing, and you learn from the inside out, and you obviously you leave washed clean, completely whole in yourself. But my prayer isn't that you leave it at that you take this work and use it in your life to liberate whatever issues holding you back, shutting you down on any level of being, and to help others. And those of you who've been through the Journey Intensive, well, this is an invitation. If ever there were a time that life is making an invitation to all of us to continue our journeys and to deepen and do your homework. You know how to do a journey process. Go after all these different people in your life that you know that you have nigglies with and aji-baji with, and come to a place of wholeness so that you can enjoy the holidays together. And then, for goodness sake, after the holidays, there are amazing events. The whole Journey Practitioner program is happening online. I'm doing, for the first time ever, the Advanced No Ego Retreat, which is for those of us who've been through the Practitioners program and the No Ego Retreat. I'm doing that full 7-day retreat online as a profoundly deep immersion. And it's the first time in years that I've done this. So it's very exciting times. There's Enneagram and abundance, and there's all the deeper practitioner training. And so I really welcome you to continue your journey. And also, I know some of you, we've just been through a little process together, and there may be questions that are rising out of, it was just a little mini process, a tiny toe dip that I hoped would encourage you to want to find wholeness and forgiveness with the different loved ones in your life. But if you'd like to ask a question, I have our beautiful director here, Claire, and she can read a question that's come out of what we just did, and read that to me, or at least paraphrase it, and I'll do my best to answer it. So if you've got a question coming out of what we went through, want to ask that, please put it in the chat box and Claire will let me know.
Hey, Brandon, I have one that hasn't just come through now, but it came through earlier from a lady called Anya, who says that she's been practicing forgiveness for years now, and yet she still feels like it's an open wound. And why is it so hard to find solace, and how can she be free from it?
It's beautiful. I thought I was practicing forgiveness prior to the tumor. I thought I was accepting, I was compassionate, I was understanding, but it's not real. It's what I call pseudo forgiveness. And the telling words is practicing forgiveness. Forgiveness cannot just be spoken, and you have to really go through the process of emptying out the rage, the unspoken words, the pain, the sadness, the despair, the devastation. All of it needs to come out, because that little bit that you cling to, that you haven't said out loud at a journey campfire, you speak words for forgiveness, but your body is saying bullshit, because you're still holding something back. Your pride is not letting you let go of it. And the only way for true forgiveness is to let go of the blame game. And that letting go of the blame game, the only way to do that is to meet the devastation of what that person did or what life circumstances did, to wholeheartedly empty it out. When you are empty, and I can say this because I had been a therapist my whole adult life, and God knows I knew about the brutal violence of my childhood. I wouldn't have dreamed of becoming a therapist till I handled it. It was violent childhood abuse. And I thought I had it all handled. But I hadn't. As because I was too busy being noble and understanding and compassionate. It's bullshit. The truth was, behind all that was I was raging at what had been done. I was devastated. I was despairing about what had happened. And until I really met that and really released that, all the acceptance, compassion, understanding of the world was what I call pseudo compassion, pseudo understanding. Till you have the courage to really baldly get naked and wholly release it all. And then when you are empty and there's nothing left, then forgiveness floods in organically. It happens spontaneously and involuntarily. And it's like the whole room is filled with forgiveness. It's not just some words being spoken. It's like all of your being says, okay, I wholeheartedly forgive. And when you've done it, it'll be just like what happened with me. You'll realize that your whole story, the blame game, is over. And when new cells are born, they'll be born devoid of that old consciousness as new regenerative cells, as my scans in hospital showed. Yeah. So is there any other question about forgiveness, about anything that we've been undergoing today, Claire?
Yeah, there's one from someone who says, how do you forgive when the other person actually doesn't respond at the campfire, when you've emptied out to them and you're asking them to speak back to you and there's no answer coming back because there's no understanding?
The reason I had is because that can sometimes happen where they're not responding. And the reason I had the younger you step inside the body of that other person was because in case they didn't speak out any words, if you go inside them, you can feel with them. That's what compassion means, to feel with. You can feel with them what they were really feeling. So even if they don't speak out loud, if you go inside their bodies, you can feel what they were going through at the time, how they felt about themselves, how they felt about life. And when you go down through the layers, a couple of layers, you're really getting it, that they were in a very terrible place in their life at the time that this happened. And that opens your heart to compassion. And then when you get inside their heart of hearts, into where the light is, where freedom is, where love is, and look out through their eyes, from their heart of hearts, from their soul, how they were really feeling towards you, then you're getting a visceral, organic experience of it. So that is how and why I put that in there. So I hope that the next time you try this, that you go that bit deeper.
Beautiful. Okay. And someone else has asked, if someone is experiencing a trauma or a stress for the first time, or if it's experienced after resolving past issues, and if you don't block the emotion, will you still experience pain?
Yes, I mean, pain is a natural part of life. This was something that I read in someone who wrote recently a question on this particular site. And she was under the impression that just because you're clear with a journey issue, a past issue, that means you won't feel. Well, that's not true. We're human beings. We all have feelings, and it's natural to feel our emotions. What's not natural is to resist them, to push them away, to shut them down. But if you're really open, wide open with an emotion, all emotions will come. And like a child, let's say we're talking about an infant. So that child is an infant, newly born. They've not learned how to block their emotions yet. And they'll be, and then a rattle is waving. It's like, and then mommy talk, it's they just allow emotion to come through unbridled. It comes and goes. No emotion can last more than a few seconds unless you add a story to it about how it shouldn't be there. You offer your resistance to it. You try to explain it to yourself. You try to analyze it. You try to figure out why it's there. You try to push it away, shut it down, anything but feel it. But the truth of the matter is, a truly free being just allows emotions to come, and unfettered they go. But the peace that is here is untouched by that experience. I've had the privilege in my life of sitting with several enlightened masters. And what is so delightful is that they'll be, sitting in just pure light, love, whatever you want to call this presence that's omnipresent. And an emotion will come through and tears will come streaming down. And in the next moment, they might be laughing about something because they have no notion that it's wrong or bad to feel emotions. Sure, some emotions are more uncomfortable than other emotions, but emotions of themselves are just energy coming through the body. It's what we do with our emotions that gives us the trouble. I can remember a journalist friend of mine was sitting with the Dalai Lama, and I think everybody would admit that he's a pretty compassionate fellow. And she said she was with him and he was with his fellow monks, and he was just, they were laughing about something, there was just, causeless joy happening. And then a monk came in and whispered in the Dalai Lama's ears that a monastery up in Tibet had been attacked, and the nuns there had been raped and dismembered. And he just stood, was sitting there receiving the news, and he looked, and the tears for 10 minutes pouring down, wordlessly just pouring down. And then finally he said to the fellow monks, and this too is samsara, the divine play. And so people have the notion that to be enlightened, to be free, to live wholly in the love that is yourself, that suddenly you're not going to be feeling anger. You're not going to be feeling sadness. You're not going to be feeling devastation. But no greater lie has ever been bought into, because every master I've sat with allows emotions to come and go. So really, there's no problems with emotions. So this woman who wrote to Claire, who said that she'd resolved issues, but she had a current trauma. And is pain still allowed? Of course, pain is allowed. Allow the pain. It will come and it will go. I mean, in the journey, we have very deep process work for releasing trauma and letting go of it physically, not just emotionally, but even just living life. Traumas are going to happen. That is the nature of life. But we can welcome life to and accept that life is doing what life does, allow the emotions to come and go. But you will notice, if you really do that, just allowing a welcome of them, that something remains untouched inside of you. Something still is and is at peace inside of yourself. And the emotions come and the emotions go, but there's a peace inside that remains untouched by that. And so really the journey is all about learning to love our emotions, to welcome them, is about discovering this infinite intelligence inside, the peace that passeth the understanding of the thinking mind. As it said in the Bible, there is a peace that passeth understanding. And there is a peace here inside that the journey, in a very, very direct way, opens you into that peace. And then you end up spending the rest of your life so in love with that peace inside yourself that, like me, you'll do anything to clear whatever blocks you, whatever holds you back, whatever shuts you down on any level of being. Because this peace that lives inside of you has become your paramount lover in life. And emotions come, emotion goes. That's none of your business. You just stay riveted here in this peace. The peace that cannot be understood with our thinking minds. So, beloveds, I know that I've gone way past the time, but I wanted to bring this message of peace and where to find it. You won't find it in the circumstances of life right now, not with the wildness of what we're experiencing with this pandemic, but you will find it inside, because it is your own self. It is the self inside of you. And the forgiveness, that's the key to finding a neutral place of being with your loved ones, staying connected to this ease of being inside of yourself, letting go of old baggage so you can live wholly from this that is your essence, authentically, not as a notion of peacefulness, but as a direct living experience. So I welcome everyone to deepen in their love of truth. Because as it said, the truth will set you free. So I thank you with all my heart. I'm sorry I've gone way, way over time. And I wish you all the deepest, most peaceful, joyous, freeing holidays. I pray you'll continue with your journey and continue to clear whatever blocks you. I look forward to seeing you in person, online. And until we meet again, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. May it be a year of fulfillment and joy and deep peace within yourself. A heartfelt namaste.